Awesome. Well, welcome to the Animation Academy, everyone. My name is Dan. I'm a Disney artist here to teach you all how to draw Stitch. As you all are interested, you're all greeted by my awesome friend Gio. Everyone say, hi Gio. Hi Gio. Gio's going to be here to help you out. So if friends with us happen to break you, just raise your hand nice and high. Either myself or Gio will be more than happy to help you. She is also standing by your one and only exit. So if you need to exit the class for any reason, just keep that door on the far right and grab a big push, just like he's demonstrating it. It'll lead you back outside door or yard. Now, for any of my new timers here today, you might have noticed that your pencils are missing an eraser. That's because here at the Academy we draw in a style called rough sketching. What that means is we're going to be starting off by drawing very light, really rough and sketchy. And as you start to get into those details, we're going to go back in later to darken in the lines that we want to keep. Now, with all that being said, though, are you folks ready to draw an alien today?
Yes!
Excellent. Now, to get us started with our portraits of Stitch, he's going to start with a basic shape, and the shape's going to be a half circle. And so right at the middle of our paper here, we're going to draw in a half circle about the size of a taco shell. It's a pretty good size here. As you can see here, I'm just keeping my lines very light, really rough, and sketchy. And so once you got the epic sunrise from the Lion King sitting here on your paper, you want to round out the bottom of Stitch's head. And so we're going to go from below our half circle, and we're going to stretch across a very wide letter T towards the bottom. So you want to think of this like we just turned our sunrise more into a gumdrop shape for his head now. From the top of our gumdrop, we want to lightly sketch down a vertical guideline to show us that Stitch is going to be facing towards us here. And this will give us our basic foundation for Stitch, but it looks nothing like it.
Yeah,
With this foundation in place, to give our alien his nose next, we're going to go right to the middle of our gumdrop, and we're going to build at the top of his nose first by adding in a little rainbow right in the middle here. And Stitch's nose is shaped like a very rounded diamond, so to complete the sides of his nose, we're going to go from the end of our rainbow, and we're going to bring a curve down to our center guideline here on each side. Because Stitch's nose is pretty similar to a koala's nose, or as Nani likes to call him, an evil koala. Stitch does need to be able to breathe here, and so to give our alien some nostrils next, we're going to go to the side of his nose. And right on the inside, we want to add in this little upside down teardrop shape. We're just seeing a little sliver of Stitch's nostrils, but his nostrils are actually pretty big on him. If you think about it, Stitch can pick his own nose with his tongue. So talk about talented and resourceful here. Now, Stitch was actually loosely modeled after a French bulldog. And because of this, he doesn't have much of a snout to him. Just a couple of wrinkles that sit above his nose here. And so to add in those wrinkles for Stitch, we're going to go to the top of his nose now. And we're going to add in two short little rainbows at the top. It's going to look like a little incomplete Wi-Fi symbol sitting above his nose here. So, since Stitch does get mistaken for a dog in this film, he does have some dog-like features to him as well. One of those being that little line, that little split that dogs have below their nose. So we'll go ahead and darken in just a bit of that center guideline. Now right below that little split, to give Stitch his smile next, we're going to lightly stretch across a flat line from right below the split here. But we don't want to leave our line like this though, otherwise Stitch is giving us more of a meh face, like he woke up and didn't have his coffee this morning. And as I turn this into a smile, from the end of that flat line, we're going to stretch up a slight little curve here on either side. Now that we've got that smile in place, to make his smile just a little bit cuter here, from the tops of those curves, we want to give Stitch some smile lines here. These are just a couple of rainbows on the ends to show us that his cheeks are going to be pushed up as he smiles nice and big. And with those smile lines in place, the last feature we need to add on to the lower half of Stitch is a little lower lip. And so going right below his smile now, to add in that lower lip of his, we're going to stretch across a very wide letter U here towards the bottom. Now that we have all of the lower half of Stitch in place, before we wake up this little guy with his eyes though, Stitch has what we like to call a character mask. That's going to be that little light shade of blue that wraps around his eyes. And I like to think of these shapes as some really big eggs that we're going to be drawing in next. And so we want to start from the side of his nose here. We'll build at the top of his character mask by stretching up a really big rainbow. And we want to blend this rainbow into the sides of our original gumdrop shape here. Now, when the artists were developing the story for Lilo and Stitch, the original concept that they had in mind was that they wanted an alien to be lost in the forest. And this alien had to overcome his isolation and really figure out where he belonged. And when they were trying to think of a location for Stitch to be stranded on, though, the first location that they had in mind was that they wanted Stitch to be lost in Kansas. Can you imagine Stitch in Kansas kind of roaming through cornfields? But they sat back and really thought about it and realized that there was never actually a Disney film set in Hawaii. And so they decided to change the location to Hawaii. And to make Stitch feel more isolated, they just made him scared of water. Now right now, we've kept those masks very light, very sketchy here. Because right up at the tops of this mask, we do need to add in some thickness to give Stitch a little eyebrow here. And so we're just gonna go to the top of our egg shape. We'll thicken up the top just a little bit more here on each side. Stitch very much is a product of the 90s. He's got these pencil thin brows. You don't want to make these too thick. You know, it's not about that 2022 light. Once you've got those eyebrows on point though, right above Stitch's eyebrows, we are going to be seeing another little wrinkle that pretty much serves as his little eyebrow muscles here. And so to add in those muscles next, we're just going to go right above the eyebrow, and we'll add in one more little rainbow each eyebrow here. And now that we've got all of that detail in place, now it's time for us to really bring our experiment to life. Now, since Stitch is an alien though, he has these really big almond shapes to his eyes. And so to start the eyes here, we're gonna go to the bottom of our character mask. And right on the inside, I'm gonna add in a little candy cane, give myself the top of his eyes here. But if you're looking at this curve and thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, Darren, I don't know if I even want to attempt to draw in his eyes, you're more than welcome to keep the curves just like this. And just say that Stitch is smiling super big, that his eyes are closed. A little kawaii Stitch here, just like the McDonald's toys that came out earlier this year. I actually had to buy them all on eBay. But to really complete that almond shape, just right between our little candy cane, we'll connect this together with more of a U-shaped curve here towards the bottom. As Stitch's eyes are pretty similar to like Baby Groot's Guardians of the Galaxy. Or if you're a big fan of Star Wars, his eyes are similar to Grogu's, or some of you still call him Baby Yoda. But we don't want to leave Stitch like this though, otherwise he's going to look like he's seen some things. Like he saw a ghost, maybe the ticket price is here. And it's going to make his eyes just a little bit more cuter. Right on the inside of those eyes now. We're going to give Stitch a little highlight, a little sparkle of light. So I'm drawing a little circle right in the corner of each eye here. Once you got that highlight in place, this is where we can go to the inside of his eyes now, and we'll shade these in really nice and dark. Now, Stitch's voice was actually done by a man named Chris Sanders, and he also happens to be the director of this movie and the creator of Lilo and Stitch himself. But a little fun fact about Chris is that after his time at Disney, after he worked on the films and the TV series, he actually moved over to DreamWorks and worked on a couple of films there. Now, my favorite trilogy that Chris was a part of was How to Train Your Dragon. And he's actually the artist behind designing Toothless, the dragon in those films. Now that we've got Stitch nice and awake, he does love to brag that he's so cute and yes, fluffy. And so to add in some fluff to Stitch, give him some hair here, we're going to go to the top of his head, and we're going to draw in 3 little shark fins here at the top. So I'm going to have my first shark fin going straight up. And then we'll have a second shark fin curve towards the right here. And we'll follow that, one more shark fin coming down. Instant perfect. Once you got the hair in place, this is where we can go back to the rest of his head, and we can darken this in all the way around now. So now, when the artists were tossing around ideas for Stitch's storyline though, one of the storylines actually involves Stitch being part of an intergalactic gang. And Jumbo was going to be his partner in crime, who was sent to Earth to try to get Stitch back from a crime gone wrong. But they realized that storyline sounded a little too intense. And so that's when they made Jumbo a mad scientist and just made Stitch, his experiment. Now we're almost finished with our sketches of Stitch, but he's missing something pretty important here. What's he missing?
Ears.
Yes, those really big ears of his. And so to add in those ears next, just like how we started his head shape, we're going to draw in 2 half circles. And so I'm going to go on the sides of his head here. And we're going to build up the top of his ears first. We're stretching out a diagonal line here on either side. And once you got those diagonals in place, we can close off the side of his ears by stretching out a really big letter C. We'll go ahead and connect this to the sides of his head here. But we want to keep these half circles very light, very sketchy here at first, because we actually do want to add in some folds to Stitch's ears next. And so once you got these half circles in place, to add in the folds of the ears, we're going to go to the inside of his ear here, and we're going to add in what we call an S curve next. And so I'm adding in this wavy backwards letter S that's going to go about halfway up my half circle and attach here toward the top. And so Stitch's ears are cone-shaped, and they're not just cone-shaped to make them look cute though. His ears allow him to hear super far. Just like in the first film, when Jumba and Pleakley are spying on Stitch outside of the animal shelter, Pleakley whispers to Jumba, "How good is his hearing?" And Stitch turns around instantly and looks right at them, even though they're super far away. That's because of that cone-shaped his ear. Once you've got those S curves in this is where we can darken in the upper fold of Stitch's ear. And so in that space between our letter S and the side of his head, we'll connect this together now by adding in another letter S curve right between the two. Now, on the outsides of Stitch's ears though, he does have these little notches, little cuts, to show that, he's gotten into some trouble in his time, some fights. And so for this left ear, we're going to see this notch cut out towards the top. And so we want to add in this sideways letter V, little pizza slice out of the ear here. And for the right ear, this notch is going to be towards the bottom, so we'll add this one a little bit lower here on the right. And once you've got those notches in place, this is where we can go back to the outside of his ears here, and we'll darken in that space from right between his little notches here on each side. Once you've got that nice and dark, that's also going to be the last step that you need for your sketches of Stitch. And so this is the time in your drawings when you want to go back in and do some touch-up work, darken in any lines that might have faded away in the drawing process. And you'd love to stand out nice and dark here. I always like to go back and shade in his nose. But once you've got all that in place, really the last mark any artist truly needs to leave on their work before it's complete though, are going to be your signatures. So make sure you do find a spot somewhere next to your alien here. And go ahead and sign big and proud, because you have just learned how to draw your very own portrait of Stitch. Experiment 626. Alright, now in the end, did you all have fun?
Yes.
Yes, that's the most important part about drawing, just really having fun here. Well, before we say goodbye, I'd love to see all of your amazing aliens here today. So we're gonna have a quick little art show. On the count of 3, let me all to raise your boards high and proud. And take a moment to look around, because they're all Stitch a little differently here. So 1, 2, 3, Stitch, everyone. Let's take a look out here. Oh, it's looking super adorable here in my first row. Nice big happy aliens all around here. Excellent job in my middle rows. All those nice big expressive eyes. Really big ears, looking so adorable. We've got some naturals out for us, just with a nice full line work. Super soft shading. Definitely all so cute and fluffy all around. Excellent job, everyone. Well, I have to say these drawings are definitely out of this world. You all passed the class. So give yourselves a round of applause. You all just graduated from the Animation Academy. Congratulations. Now those drawings are for you to keep, so go ahead and take those drawings off the board with you and take them home as a souvenir. And now, if you'd like to join us for our next class, we're going to be drawing Ursula next. We'd love to have you back for that. But if we don't see you all, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at the resort. And class is dismissed. Bye, everyone.
Alrighty, folks, let's give Darren a great big round of applause for that awesome artwork. Alrighty, everybody, your exit doors are now open. The same 3 doors you entered from at the very beginning of the class. The same 3 doors you entered from at the very beginning of the class. Please make sure we are taking all of our belongings, backpacks, purses, cell phones. We want to make sure we take all that stuff with us so we don't have a door moment and forget about it later. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Animation Academy. Please make sure that we are leaning the board upright against the chair with the pencil returned back into the spring. That's going to help us set up for our next class. As for our next class, we are going to be drawing a sea witch. If you do want to learn how to draw Ursula, all you have to